Monday. This is an extremely exceptional Mindset Monday because we are talking about men's mental health. I'm Shelley Butler.
I'm Yves Doucette.
Yes, and this is our panel, and I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. Luke, you're up first.
Hey there, guys. My name's Luke Sampson. I'm an accounting student there in Brunswick Community College, and I deal with finances mainly.
Finances. And you, Owen? Unmute yourself, hon.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Owen Vibert. Work at Dovico Software, help our team with all things product. Like Luke, I am a student. Been at this for quite some time now, just trying to find answers to the many things I have questions on. And this topic here this morning we're going to explore is certainly one of those topics. So happy to be here.
Oh, and guess what? Oh, Paul's coming in.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Are you guys admitting him? Here he comes. Here he comes.
Yeah, the girls got it.
No, look at me trying to, I like control. Paul Babin into the house. How are you, Paul? The boys had just introduced themselves, and we would love for you to just introduce yourself here and say a little bit about what you do.
So I'm Paul. I'm a registered nurse, and I do work for a pharmaceutical company as a national trainer. And I've been working with Dovico's fabulous people for the past year and learned so much about them. So I'm eager to discover what we are learning today. Thank you.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you so much. So today is all about mental health. Thank you so much for Paul for just jumping on here. We certainly appreciate it. And Yves, do you want to say a little bit about what you do?
Oh, okay.
What do you do?
Typically, I try to live every day.
Yep.
It's always a choice between doing and living. So to me, it's about living. So what do I do? At Dovico, I would probably call myself a coach. I try to focus a lot on the ins and out of why we're in business. And one of my pet projects is the Show Up product that we've been working on. And that has to do a lot with mental health, because I believe anyway that mental health, first and foremost, is about a conversation. And it's difficult to have conversations.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to have difficult conversations. So that's what I do. I'm a yoga practitioner. What else?
You are the idea guy.
The idea
Yeah,
guy?
you
How
are
do I say
really
that?
the idea
Am I
guy.
pronouncing that right? Idea.
Yeah, you've
Idea.
got it. So for years, Yves would come into my office and say, Shelley, I have the greatest ID. And I would say, and he'd go, huh? What are you So yeah, in French, idea is idée. So the translation did not take effect. All right. So here we are today. We're talking about men's mental health. And that's exactly why we brought a panel on here, because if I asked Yves, if it was just Yves and I here, and I asked Yves about mental health, we would not have enough hours in the day. So
No.
I am asking you guys, and just unmute yourselves, go ahead. And the very first thing I would like to ask, and just chime in to you guys, is do you feel you have a good work-life balance? Do you?
I suppose I can go first.
Awesome.
So I suppose I just finished my school year, but rewind about 2 weeks ago, no way. I was buried in my office just doing schoolwork endlessly, just trying to make sure, because we had to do a big business plan for our last 2 weeks, or last week of 7 weeks of school. So I was leading our presentation and everything. I had to put everything together, make sure everything was good, fonts are correct, make sure everyone knows what they're doing. We had to practice, present, and let's just say I didn't have a lot of time to myself.
Okay, so work-life balance to you means time to yourself?
I would say yes. I would say time to convey your thoughts and just be with yourself. That would be work-life balance.
Beautiful. Anybody else want to chime in here? Do you have a balanced lifestyle?
I was fumbling for my mute button earlier, so Luke beat me.
Keep yourself off mute.
I will do that.
Okay.
So I would say I do have work-life balance, and that is fully thinking through the word balance in that term. Because I like to think that, like, well, I know things come at me in droves. Like, there's going to be periods in my life where it's just really busy and I don't get that time to myself, like Luke was alluding to. It happens. But there's other times where it's a little bit quieter, a little bit slower, and then I'm able to have that time. So with that in mind, I'm not looking for balance. I'm just looking for periods in which I can find the time for that solitude, for that rest, for that re-energization, that rejuvenation. I don't expect it in all periods, but I do expect it to have it at points, and I do get it at points. So for me, I have the balance I'm seeking in that I get those periods frequently, even when life comes at me in droves.
Mhm. I love that. So I would ask you, I'm going to go a little deeper into that then, Owen. I would ask you, who's responsible? Who's responsible to make that solitude and that rest?
Like with anything in life, I think for anybody, and this is a personal belief, it all starts with me and how I want to interpret what's in front of me. I think the mindset, your mindset in the moment, and we can certainly get caught up in some of the emotions. I'm busy, I'm stressed. I'm like however we want to qualify how we're feeling in the moment. That can certainly create the adverse mindset, or maybe not an optimal mindset that you might need to get into a situation. But certainly, it all starts with me, I guess, is the short of it. How I want to approach it, how I want to read into the situation. It all starts with me and the step I'm about to take.
Beautiful. Paul, do you have anything to add?
So I do. So for me, again, it's work in progress. Uh, as a being a male nurse in a female profession, it was all about was all about the providing performance, right? And sometimes it's hard because that's one of the expectations that we need to provide. We need to show up all the time, and we tend to um, forget ourselves because because of the performance, right? But since I would say the couple years, even with the work we're doing with the Pillars and Practice, I've learned that it's important that we do take care of ourselves and we do self-regulate on every level, body, mind, spirit.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Eve.
So that's an interesting question. I've got a little bit from everyone here. But I'm a little older than you, so maybe it's always a different perspective. From so all the way from like Luke, who's starting his career, to who I should be ending my career. And people ask me all the time, like, why aren't you retired, or are you retired yet? And I'm going to answer this question. I don't have work-life balance. Every day I live. And what happened to me at one point in time is I stopped working. What I mean for that is, like, if you give me a task to do, I'll take that task and I'll say, what's in it for me? How am I going to discover? How am I going to do this task? No matter what it is, what am I going to do this task to discover something about myself? What am I going to do in this task to be myself in that task? So I never work, if that makes any sense. So I used to go home and I have these to-do lists, and then I'd go to work and I have these to-do lists, and that drove me to depression.
Did. Yep.
I started to be depressed, and the more I tried, the more I worked, there was no balance. I was tilted on one side, and that side was always to the outside. So now I look forward inside. I don't look for balance of work and life. I look for balance inside. And I say, everything I do in life is about me anyway. So I might as well think about me and say, what is there to discover here? How am I leaning into the things that I love doing? And let's say I take a task. Last night I washed the floors. It's not something I particularly like. I'm not really good at it. You can ask my wife, she'll tell you. But I leaned into it. So, okay, what is there to discover here about that task, right?
Yeah.
What is there to discover about doing that task that is going to be okay for me? And after the floor was clean, I thought, I have a clean floor. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That was it.
And sometimes
Right.
that's it, right? Sometimes about being in the moment. Sorry, I missed that, Paul. It's hard to actually read on yeah, we'll get you though. Eve, that's something that's really important. And I'm always talking about finding your joy, right?
Yes.
Finding your joy. So, and that's kind of what I wanted to get on with Owen. Like, who is responsible? So we're talking about work-life balance. We're talking about a lifestyle balance. We have one life. We don't have work and home. I mean, we have one life. That is our that is what we do every day. Most of us have these two separate facets that we have to interact with every day. And are you changing who you are? Are you finding that joy in everything you do? Do we have to wait until we're 66 though to find or to make a mark in our lives to say, you know what? I'm not going to take on that extra work. I'm not going to um, take those to-do lists that other people are giving me because I am responsible to making sure that I can find solitude, find rest, find time to ourselves, find the things that that find us joy, give us joy, if you will.
But it's also about letting go for me. It's just, if I can't, it's also about letting go because I don't know if you guys face this all the time, but it's like, and I don't mean to put it on someone else, but it's like the little words like, well, you didn't clean the floor like I want you to clean the floor, or could you have done the dishes too, right? So it's like the to-do list, you do one thing and then life, and I'm not putting anything on my wife or anybody else like that, or that's what I'm saying. It gets like humans, they always get you to do, well, why didn't you do this? And you get this guilt feeling that you didn't do enough. So part of my kind of practice every single day, and I struggle with this still to this day.
Yes, you do.
Even this morning, I struggled with this. Am I doing enough? Right. And I have to be in the moment, say, you know what? I'm doing enough. And I don't need to justify to anyone that what I did was perfectly acceptable and I'm okay with it. It might be not enough for you, boss, but it's enough for me. That's what I'm struggling with every single day. Every single day for me, that's a struggle. At home with my friends, with my family, with my peers, doesn't matter where to go. And it's harder. And I don't know if you guys see this or not, maybe Paul can chime in. I find it 10 times harder with women.
That's okay. Go ahead,
I'm
Paul.
Yeah.
So again, I think you've got it. I think for us, there's an expectation of performance. We are, as men, I think we always need to be, yeah,
a little bit better
of service,
better, and again, we don't want to disappoint, right? We don't want to disappoint. We feel that we need to be above everything, at always everything. We yeah.
All right, Paul, thank you. And Luke, do you feel the same? Do you feel the same that you have to be a little bit better than your partner? And I know your partner. Go for it. Teasing.
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled a lot with this too myself. I mean, there's a lot of almost societal pressure on males to, like, just for example, this is just an example in like the dating world these days. Like, if you're not making six figures, if you're not this, you're not that, you don't have the house, the car, the stable income, if you're not the provider, you're seen as lesser, that kind of things. But it's a lot of pressure on someone who doesn't have those things. You're almost expected to get to that level. But the thing is, even if you get all those material things, will it change your happiness level? Probably not. Happiness comes from within.
Yeah, beautiful. Owen?
Performance, when I hear that word, I hear productivity. And I mean, this is the type of society we live in. Absolutely. It's all about what did you produce? And then, or what did you produce last quarter? And hey, your reward for meeting those numbers this quarter is we're going to beat that number. And then it's a hamster wheel. It's a trap. It doesn't end. And we do this for the sake of our humanity.
Yeah.
It's a race to the bottom. It really is. Like, it seems like we're progressing. It feels that way based on the numbers, but it takes away, I think, our humanity at some point. And I think we need to be thinking about our energy levels as we start thinking about this, productivity or performance. It takes energy to make energy. And if we're depleted, we're good to nobody. And I think we need to manage our energy levels in those moments and in those, and it's easy to get to that point, right? Oh, well, this is the expectation. I have to do this. But there's a cost to doing that. There's an energy. And if you're not getting energy from doing that type of work, you got to question why you're doing it, I think. And that all boils down to, I think, that humanity piece that I was talking about, as well as some of that self-awareness. I mean, how do you ever take a step in a different direction if you're just caught up in the hamster wheel of producing? So I think there's some mindfulness, some awareness, and some humanity that needs to enter the equation. I'm prescribing a solution here to a problem, I guess. But those are some of my thoughts when I start thinking about that productivity and these societal norms that are in place for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh, it's the societal norms, that you talk about. There's so much of it out there. And we have Gen Z and we have millennials coming in, and they're breaking those societal norms. And we all have to be aware that those are being broken. And we have to also be aware that there's a new direction here in this world. We're not living the industrial era anymore. And this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I mean, even the fact that we're talking about men's mental health awareness is over the top for me as Gen X, and Paul nods his head as well. I mean, it's just not something that we discuss. So, do you feel comfortable discussing mental health at work? Do you feel comfortable discussing mental health with your peers? Who wants to chime in?
Suppose I can add in. I worked for a handful of different places, and I don't think there's ever been one place that I've worked where I would have felt comfortable disclosing that kind of information to somebody.
Okay.
Because people tend to run their mouth behind your back. Unfortunately, it happens more often than not. They may say something about you, and then you're almost outcasted. As someone who was once very extroverted, then turned introverted, now I'm starting to come back out of my shell again. One of my fears is that's going to happen again, but I have to sometimes let go of that, if that makes any sense. Because really, if I spend my whole life caring about what other people think, I'm not going to make it anywhere. So
Beautiful. Yeah. It's unfortunate, Luke, that we don't have that environment, but I believe that it is coming, that every place is going to have that. I foresee that in our future. Owen?
So I feel fortunate that I can show up to work not having to wear a mask. I get to show up authentically as me. And because of that, I'm not having to force and make trade-offs in terms of, who I am with what some of these expectations might be. I get to approach my work as me. And that has a big impact on, I think, my well-being. I also think too that, not feeling safe, I can easily put myself in that situation, feeling like, can I not share because I don't feel safe? I don't feel that there's enough trust in the environment for me to share how it is I'm feeling. But I also think too that it's important that we find a trusting environment to share some of those things, whether it be at work or not. So we can take a step and if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're feeling anxiety, if we're feeling stressed, and there's lots of great studies out in the world on this topic, specifically around men. There was a Men's Health Foundation report that was released last month, I think, in conjunction with this Men's Health Week. National average, 18% of men are stating that they're moderate to high depression levels. That seems low to me. I'm thinking that this is part of it, right? We don't even want to admit to ourselves that we could be in this spot. But again, having a safe spot to talk about some of these things, normalizing it, will allow for people to feel safe that they can share some of these things. And I'll end with this, like, we talk about emotional intelligence in the workplace today. We talk about soft skills and the development of those soft skills. 30 years ago, the word emotion in the workplace was, no, you can't do that. And I think this is to your point here, Shelley. And we know how important emotional intelligence is in predicting success in a role. Like you can teach the skills, but can you teach the mindsets? Can you teach the things that come along with emotional intelligence? And I think it's a skill. You can. I think those things can be taught and then learned. But only if you focus on them. It's like anything else. And it's the same thing with this type of conversation. We're bringing awareness to it, and we will get to a point where this will be a normal conversation. I can't come to work. Last week for me, it was my knee. It's a physical thing. I can show you the bandages. I can show you the staples in my knee. It's a physical manifestation. I can show you the healing process. But when it's here, how can I show that to you? So then is it real? And I think, you know, that study that I'm alluding to, that national average of 18%, I think that's low.
Very
And then,
low.
you know, what's interesting about that study is as you start looking at age groups, so men aged 19, and I'll share the infographic here in the chat, age 19 to 29, 43% are saying that they have, or they're at risk of moderate to high depression. And then the numbers are even starker when you start looking at racialized racialized men or gay or bisexual men. So, I mean, it gets even harder. It's quite interesting, quite fascinating. And I think it all comes down to support. Can you share that stuff? So those are some of my thoughts around it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Paul, the question was, do you feel comfortable discussing mental health at work? You're a male nurse, so do you?
So at the hospital, am I still on mute?
Nope, you're good. We
Oh,
can hear
sorry.
you.
So
Yep.
no, at the hospital would never be a discussion, because you know we're supposed to provide care to patients. We're supposed to be always be above water, and even though that I'm not feeling okay, I'm supposed to show up and do my job, right?
Mhm.
But again, being in this pharmaceutical company, taking care of chronic illnesses, COVID kind of was a wake-up call for us because, again, with data, Owen, just to support, we noticed that patients were getting more depressed and had more suicidal suicidal thoughts. And we came across the Living Works program, where it's kind of a CPR course where we teach staff to recognize the signs and symptoms of suicidal thoughts and depression, and just provide help to those patients, just accompany them and to provide professional help. And we train all our staff on that. And the fact that we had that conversation, oh my God, we've learned for the management team, first of all, we did it with the managers, and we've learned so much of each other, how we're all in this world together, and we all have struggles, mental struggles, you know, but having that conversation can really create that, like the space that Owen was saying, that safe space. And that really for us was a game changer. That's
Yeah.
where we started to do all of these. You guys came along
Yes.
after that.
Yeah.
And it's awesome how, you know, everything happens for, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
really fortunate we can do that. We can discuss that in our work.
Yeah, I think you were really positive in all of that, Paul, and bringing that forward, right, for your entire team and making sure that that was part of the budget, right? We are going to talk about
Yes.
mental health. We are going to talk about some issues.
Yes.
It's not just for the patients.
No.
It has to be for us as well, right?
No.
So it's so interesting how the world has shifted and they're looking more internally, but it takes people like yourself to go, wait a minute, this is ongoing. So just like we need to have in our budget, we need to have, you know, office supplies, you know, we also need to have mental health support. You know, Harvard put out a study, as an 80-year-old study, about how people feel belonging and how people are able to really find joy within their work. And it was all about social connection. And it was all about us sharing with each other our truths. So beautiful, Paul. I love that you have made that a mission in your life, a mission with your team. And you see that, that you're all kind of like in that same space. When we can find connection with one another, it's powerful, right? It's powerful. You become such a dynamic team. I know that we're able to do that at Dovico, and we feel so good about it. We are at the top of our hour. Eve, do you have anything else that you would like to talk about?
So the question you asked, I know I want to answer the question.
Yep. Do you feel comfortable discussing mental health at work?
So I'm going to answer this way. For me, it's not work, it's people. I look at this panel, every single one of you, including you, Shelley, I'm totally 100% comfortable sharing anything and everything with you. I know I'm not going to be judged. I know you're going to be listening. And I'm looking at you guys, we've had some of these discussions together.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just thinking about it because that makes my heart feel like a place of belonging. So it's not work, it's individuals.
Yeah.
That's been my thing. So some individuals in my experience, when I come up with sharing some of these things, they say, they'll react or they'll act differently. They're not accepting, if you want. And I tend to clam up. That's what I used to do. Tend to just shut off, clean up, remove them, not go there. And then I started there's this guy who said to me once, he said, make sure you put your office, this is when we had offices, right? Make sure you put your offices next to the person that listens to you. And I don't know if you remember that, but I put my office next to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tend to surround myself with people that are open to having real conversations, not about people, not about things, but about the way we can actually evolve as humans. And so that doesn't mean that other peoples don't have interesting things. It's just that I don't tend to share my deepest thoughts with these people because they're not ready. If that makes any sense, right? So I tend not to have these deeper discussions with the people because they're not there, right? And so I don't think it's worked for me because I have some of these people in my private life and my work life that know I can't, but yet I have some people in my work life and my private life that I can feel comfortable in sharing anything with them. And I have. Right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I like that reframe. And like when I think about, that sharing of emotion and feelings and like, Paul, you bring up an interesting point, like, like showing up at work. If I've got a broken arm or a broken leg, like there's either I can't go or there's accommodations created. And if it should be the same thing for your emotional well-being and the stress that you may be carrying or the anxiety that you may be carrying. Like we need to be talking about these things so we can then find out ways to reframe the way that we're doing the work. And again, just to touch on what you've done here, Eve, with that reframe, like I think it's complicated. I think, that we use simple heuristics to try to solve for this situation or this issue around men's mental health. And so we can move forward but nothing ever gets done with that. And a reframe, well, why do we have to think about it from a work perspective? Let's talk about it as individuals. Let's talk about it as people. Like that simple reframe allows for something new to happen, a new conversation to happen. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you guys, you are dynamic. All of you are super dynamic. we're going to just do a real quick speed round. And I want you to tell us one strategy that you do that you manage your stress. So one strategy that you do to manage your stress. Luke?
Well, Eve will probably know what I'm about to say. The gym, for sure, 100%. It's a way for me, it's my happy place to, like, even when I was in the deep work of the project and everything, and during my school year and during some of my really low points, I still went to the gym pretty much every day. And the mental clarity you get from doing that is unbelievable. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, I don't think any other drug on the planet would compare to it. I'd call it close to that. But if you're not going to the gym, please do it. It's so good for your physical and mental health. It clears out a lot of stuff, all your baggage per se.
Love that, Luke. That's a beautiful point. I'm with you 100%. I work out every day, well, except for Saturdays. And it has changed my entire life. Owen? One
So the
strategy.
gym, absolutely. I agree with that. Something a little bit more immediate to me that I try to employ, I don't always get it right, but when I do, it allows for different things to happen, is just to neutralize stress in that it's not good or bad. It's how I'm feeling in this moment. I've got something going on internally. Why am I feeling that way? And is it real? What can I do here and now to then move this thing forward? So I try to neutralize stress as opposed to thinking stress is a negative thing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Paul Baba.
So for me, I've learned again, Eve, thank you for your word of wisdom, being present and enjoying the moment. So when you're in that zone, you can come across challenges, but your perception of it won't be as big, you know, being in the moment present, like in relation with you, Shelley. Let's say I'm having conversation, being in this moment, you know, it again, it brings the joy, it brings the happiness. And if we're at work, it's not work. You're right, Eve. When you're enjoying that present moment, doing something that you like, it's not a job, right? It's you're being in that present moment. And again, being in that present moment, it's sometimes we take for granted because we always look forward. Oh, I'm gonna relax when I go to work, when I go to vacation, but it's really in this moment now. Like these conversation is really for me, it's an eye opener and say, oh my God, we need to be more present. That's part of our
Yes.
one of those mental strategy to manage stress.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Eve.
Thank you, Paul. I have two. First of all, I'm not very stressed. So, and it's because I do this one thing like religiously. Of course, I do lots of exercise. I do daily exercise every day. But the thing that really I anchor my day on is journaling. There's not a day that I don't journal. So it's the gift that I give myself. Journaling has helped me reflect on the day yesterday and get better today. So journaling for me is key. But it doesn't answer the question, what do I do when I'm stressed? Because life happens. No matter what you do, life happens. You feel stress. And this is by default. What I do is I'll remove myself from the situation and do one small thing that I love to do. One small thing. And it could be anything, but it could be one small thing. So I will, if I'm in the stressful environment, I will pick something off the table and say, I'm going to do that. Right? I can cook the carrots today. I'm going to cook the carrots. I'll do that. And I'll try to just focus on that one thing. That has allowed me to remove the stress because then I'm in, like Paul was saying, in the moment of cooking the carrots, right?
Yep.
In the moment of doing one thing. Despite the fact that I need to do like 10,000 things, I do one thing. Yeah.
Beautiful.
If I could add something to that there too.
Awesome.
Little things you can do. This, if you're feeling stressed, get this out of your hand and away from you. I will say that right now. Doom scrolling on your phone, it makes it a lot worse.
True.
99% of the time.
True.
Because I think most of everyday stress comes from this, because we all we see is negative stuff on there. What politician did this? Who's doing that? Someone got beat up, someone got hurt. You don't hear a lot of good stuff on the internet these days. It's unfortunate. So you clear that out of your area. It can remove a barrier, let's just say. Like I've heard of stories of people literally putting their phone like on the rooftop of their house, like throwing it on the rooftop to keep it away from them.
It's crazy how we have become so attached to our phones, our devices. You know, it's supposed to give us freedom, and we realize now that that was a lie. Dr. Greg Wells will tell us to make sure that all notifications are turned off. I haven't had any notifications on my phone since 2018.
Wow.
I've turned them all off. My daughter will say it's my rude phone because I don't answer. I answer when I am available. I answer when I'm available. So absolutely, absolutely, that is a beautiful way to be present, is to get your phone out of your life for a little while. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so thrilled with this panel and what you've brought to us. Please make sure that if you have anything else to add, you'll put it in the comments below. We would love our audience to make sure that if there's anything that you would love to add to Men's Mental Health Month and how we can make it better, how we can bring that to the workforce, and we can help our men move forward. I absolutely love it. And yes, Eve has a webinar tomorrow.
Yes.
It is so
With Ida.
exciting. 1:30 Atlantic time.
Yep.
I'm correct, right? 1:30 Atlantic time. Yeah. So it'll be 12:30 Eastern time. And it is going to be with Ida Noon. And there is going to be a strategies to get you unstuck. And a lot of us are stuck. A lot of us can't find our way to the present. And you guys have given some excellent ways to make sure that we are there. Eve, do you have anything else to add before we're out of here?
I think this was our best Monday morning live ever.
Whoa. Whoa,
guys.
look at that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like our 800th or something. I don't know how many we've done, but it's
We've
been
done
a
a lot.
lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
Mindset Mondays. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate your wisdom, your emotional intelligence to be here and talk to us about Men's Mental Health Month. Mwah, love you. I'm Shelley Butler.
I'm Eve Doucette.
Don't forget to get your workout in. As we know, that is super
Mhm.
important. Mwah, love you. This has been Mindset Monday. Can't wait to see you for our last one next week.